Okay, this is review Unit 3B on special right triangles. So the first part is Pythagorean theorem, and I can see some 45, 45, 90, and I'm sure there's 30, 60, 90. Okay, on the first one, if you notice, you're given two side lengths. You're looking for the third side. So if you're given two side lengths and you're looking for the third side, you're using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember, c squared is always your hypotenuse, which is across from the right angle. So if you were to set this up, we have a squared, so 5 squared, plus 12 squared equals x squared. Okay, you can type that into your calculator, and you will get 169 equals x squared. Okay, but you want x, so you need to take the square root on both sides, and that's going to be 13. Okay, you could also notice that this is a 5, 12 blank triangle. So remember those Pythagorean triples? That's a Pythagorean triple. So some triples are 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and then that last one was a 5, 12, and 13. Those are the most common. Okay, if you look at number 2, again, you're given two sides. Okay, you're looking for the third side. So you have a 6 blank 10 triangle. Okay, we just talked about triples up here. So if you have 6, which we do, if you have a 10, which we do, that means your blank has to be 8. So that is 8. Okay, on number 3, it's a square. You know squares have 90-degree angles, so there's 90-degree angles all around. Well, the diagonals are going to cut that 90 degrees in half. So half of 90 is 45. So you have two 45 angles right here in blue. So if you have two 45 angles, so we have 45, 45, 90, set up your 45, 45, 90 chart. Your constants are 1, 1, radical 2. Okay, what do you know? What is given? Across from 90 degrees is 6 radical 2. So under 90, you put 6 radical 2. Okay, you're looking for x. Well, x is just a side. They're all the same. It's a square. So just under any 45 degree, you're going to put x. Okay, your proportion is staring at you in the face. 1 over x equals radical 2 over 6 radical 2. Cross multiply. Okay, when you cross multiply, you have 1 times 6 radical 2, which is 6 radical 2, equals x times radical 2, which is just x radical 2. Okay, you're solving for x. The x and the radical 2 right here are being multiplied. You want to undo that, so you need to divide both sides by radical 2. Okay, the radical 2's are going to cancel on the right. They're also going to cancel on the left. Anything divided by itself is just 1. So you're left with x equals 6. Okay, on number 4, we have Pythagorean theorem again. If you're given two sides, which we are, we have 7 and we have 24. And if you're trying to find the last side, that's Pythagorean theorem, when you're given two sides and you want to find another side. Okay, so I have 7 squared plus 24 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. So my hypotenuse is across from the right angle. That is x squared. Your hypotenuse always has to be by itself. Okay, so if you type that into your calculator, so if you do 7 squared plus 24 squared, you're going to get 625. So 625 equals x squared. I am telling you that 625 is probably going to be an answer choice. Don't pick that. You want to take the square root of 625. And when you take the square root of both sides, because that's squared, you're trying to undo it, your answer is going to be 25. Okay, on number 5, it says a rectangle has a diagonal of 2 and a length of 3. Find the width. So we're going to get a picture in here. So I have a rectangle. It says the diagonal is 2 and the length is radical 3. Okay, so get a length of radical 3. Okay, you're trying to find the width, which is x. Okay, rectangles have 90-degree angles. That's a little 90 mark. Whatever. Okay, so again, you have Pythagorean theorem. You're given two sides. You're trying to find the last side. Now this, you need to be careful on how you set this up. So this is really side squared plus side squared equals your hypotenuse squared. So it does matter. So we have radical 3 squared. I'm going to put that in parentheses since I'm squaring a radical. Plus x squared equals 2 squared. That's my hypotenuse. Okay, remember right here, anytime that you square a radical, squaring just means multiplying it by itself. If you do radical 3 times radical 3, remember, you're going to get that value. Okay, if you don't believe me, radical 3 times radical 3 is really radical 9. And what's the square root of 9? It is 3. So this goes to just a regular 3 plus x squared equals 2 squared is 4. Okay, you're going to solve for x. Just subtract 3 on both sides. Okay, so if I go over here to the right, I have x squared equals 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, if you take the square root of 1, put that in your calculator, you're going to get 1. So the width is going to be 1. Number 6 says find the length of the diagonal of a square with a perimeter of 16. Okay, a couple things. The diagonal, a square, perimeter of 16. Draw your square first. Okay, perimeter, this means that you're adding up all the sides. Well, you know it's a square, so all of the sides are the same. So that means you're going to have to take 16 and you're going to have to split it evenly between 4 sides. So if you do 16 divided by 4, you are going to get 4. So that's telling you each side of this square is 4. Okay, but what does it want? It wants the diagonal, so draw in that diagonal. Okay, so since it's a square, you can really do this two ways. You can do it by Pythagorean theorem, and you can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so you can do 4 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared. Or if you know it's a square, you know they have 90-degree angles. Okay, the diagonal is going to cut the 90-degree in half right here and right here, so half of 90 is 45. So then you have these angles right here are 45, so now you can do 45, 45, 90. It doesn't matter, you're going to get the same thing. I'm going to do 45, 45, 90 just because I can. Constants, 1, 1, radical, 2. Okay, you're going to have squares on your test, so you better know they're 45, 45, 90. Okay, across from 45 degrees is, across from 45 is 4. So under 45 you put 4. What do you want to know? You want to know across from 90 is the diagonal. So across from 90, that's going to be x, what you want to know. So under 90 you put x. Okay, now your proportion is staring at you in the face. Okay, you should be able to see that this first fraction is 1 over 4. That's a 4. Equals radical 2 over x. Okay, proportions, cross multiply. We've done these forever. 1 times x is x equals 4 times radical 2 is just 4 radical 2. So your diagonal is 4 radical 2. If you did that by Pythagorean theorem, you would get the same thing. You would just have to break down your value with the prime tree, and remember, you circle the dates. If you have a date, you get to leave the house. If you don't, you can't leave the house. 17. Again, Pythagorean theorem. You're given two sides. You're looking for the third. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember, your hypotenuse is always by itself. If it's not by itself, you're doing it wrong. So we have 13 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared. Okay, 13 squared is 169 plus x squared equals, and 15 squared is 225. Okay, you're going to subtract 169 on both sides because you're solving for x. That's a 6 and that's a 9. Okay, so you have x squared equals 225 minus 169 is going to give you 56. Okay, then you're going to have to take the square root of that. If you take the square root of 56, it's not going to come out even, So we're going to have to break this down. So we have 56. We're going to break it down into our primes. So if I do 56 divided by 2, I'm going to get 2 and 28. Okay, 2 is prime. I got to break 28 down. If I divide that by 2, I'm going to get 2 and 14. If I break this down, I'm going to get 2 and 7. Remember, you can only leave the house if you have a date. The only thing that has a date is a 2. So a 2 gets to come out of my house. Okay, what doesn't have a date? This other 2 and that other 7 doesn't have a date. If two numbers stay inside the house, they're being multiplied. So 2 times 7 is radical 14. That is your answer for number 7. Okay, this first part on the next page, this is straight from your notes. You're going to need this because there are 4 questions on your test tomorrow that are asking about what type of triangle it is. Okay, so remember, if c squared, remember c squared is always your hypotenuse. A and B are just the sides or the legs of the triangle. C is always the hypotenuse. So if you can have c squared, if that's going to equal a squared plus b squared, then your triangle is a right triangle. Okay, but what if it doesn't equal? What if c squared is less than, okay, it looks like an L, it means less than, a squared plus b squared. So if c squared is less than, think of less than as kind of almost like smaller, so your triangle is going to have small angles. That means your triangle is going to be acute. Okay, and then if it's greater, if c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared combined, think greater than large, you're going to have a large angle, a large, an angle with a large angle and triangle, that's going to be an obtuse triangle. Okay, so you're going to have to know that on your test. So the next part, it says use the information above to tell whether a triangle with the sides of given lengths can be formed. If so, classify as acute, right, or obtuse. Okay, your hypotenuse is always going to be the biggest side. So I have 8, 8 radical 3, and 16. If you type 8 radical 3 in your calculator, it's going to be 13.8. So that means I know that 16 is going to be my biggest side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this format right here. I'm going to do c squared first. So I'm going to do 16 squared. I'm going to see what that is, what that blank is, with my other 2 sides squared. So with 8 squared plus, parentheses, 8 radical 3, close parentheses, squared. So if I do 16 squared in my calculator, I'm going to get 256. Okay, now if you're going to square this, you can put that all in your calculator at once, but you better use parentheses, and you better make sure when you close your parentheses, you're going to have to use your right arrow key on your calculator to move your cursor to the right on your screen, so that 8 radical 3 is all in parentheses. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, raise your hand and I'll come help you. So if you type 8 squared plus parentheses 8 square root 3, okay, you're going to close parentheses once for the 3, and then you're going to have to close it again for the 8 radical 3 in parentheses, then square it. Okay, when you press enter, you're also going to get to 56. Okay, remember, if you don't know how to type that in your calculator, this part right here in purple, raise your hand. So these two numbers are equal. So yes, a triangle can be formed. What type? It is a right triangle. Since it's equal, that means it's a right triangle. Okay, remember, to form a triangle, your 2 smaller sides have to add up and be bigger than your last side. So if we're checking this real fast, the 2 small sides are 11 and 11. Add those 2 up. 11 plus 11 is 21. Is 21 bigger than 15? Yes, it is. So we know we can make a triangle. Now we just got to figure out what type of triangle it is. So take c squared, so 15, so we have 15 squared. We're going to figure out what kind of blank that is with my other 2 sides squared and added together. So 15 squared in your calculator is 225. Okay, type 11 squared plus 11 squared in your calculator. Okay, you're going to get 245. 2. Remember, you want c squared on the left-hand side. Okay, now if you're comparing these two numbers, if you're comparing 225 and 242, the bigger number is 242, so you want your alligator symbol to be eating that number. So your inequality is going to be eating that value. Remember, it always wants to eat the bigger one. So now, since this symbol is a less than symbol, that's telling you, since it's less than, your angles are going to be small. That means you're going to have an acute triangle. Okay, and the last one. First, let's check to see if it can form a triangle. So take your two smaller sides, 8 and 14. If you do 8 plus 14, 8 plus 14 is 22. Okay, so these two sides added together is 22. In order to make a triangle, it has to be greater than. So 22 does equal 22, but you cannot make a triangle out of those sides. It would have to be greater than. Okay, on number 11, on the next couple, we're going to do 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90. Okay, so on the first one, you have a 90 degrees and you have 45 degrees. That means your other angle has to be 45 degrees. So you need to set up your 45, 45, 90 chart. Okay, you have 1, 1, radical 2. The nice thing about 45, 45, 90 is that since you have two angles that are 45 degrees, if you have these two angles that are 45 degrees, that means you know both sides have to be the same. Okay, so what information is given? So you're given, look right here, you're given 6. That is across from 45 degrees. It's opposite of 45 degrees. So under 45, I'm going to put a 6. Okay, now if you're looking at your sides over here, what we're trying to find, we're trying to find FI and BI. Well, if you look at BI, BI is right here. That's also opposite of what angle? It's opposite of 45. So if that's opposite of 45, and this angle right here is opposite of 45 and it's 6, that means this side also has to be 6. So you should already be able to figure out one answer. Okay, then you're just looking for FI. So FI is the hypotenuse, so we're going to label that, let's just label it X, whatever. Okay, that's across from 90 degrees, so under 90 degrees, you put an X. Okay, now you have your proportion. You have 1 over 6 equals radical 2 over X. Cross multiply. You have two fractions equal to each other. You have a proportion, cross multiply. 1 times X is X. Thank goodness, X is by itself. 6 times radical 2 is just 6 radical 2, and that is your answer. Okay, on 12, again, you have 90 degrees, you have 45 degrees, that means your last angle right here is 45, so write that in. So, that's a 4. So you have 45, 45, 90. Okay, you have 1, 1, radical 2. Here we go. Okay, you're given that across from 90 is 10 radical 2. So under 90, put 10 radical 2. Now, the nice thing about this is both of these angles, CI and IA, so CI is right here and IA is right here, they're both opposite of 45 degrees. So since they're both opposite of 45 degrees and 45 is the same, that means their sides are going to be the same. So you really only have to find one. So we're going to put an X across from 45, and then we're just going to solve this proportion. So I have 1 over X equals radical 2 over 10 radical 2. This one isn't as bad as you think it is. 1 times 10 radical 2 is 10 radical 2. That equals, going the other way, X times radical 2 is just X radical 2. Okay, you're solving for X. If you look, X also has that radical 2. They're being multiplied. So the opposite is division. Divide by radical 2 on both sides. Okay, the radical 2's are going to cancel here, but they're also going to cancel on the other side. Anything divided by itself is just 1. So you're left with 10 equals X. So that means both sides are 10. Okay, number 13, we have one more, 45, 45, 90, then we'll move on to 30, 60, 90. Okay, so I have 45 degrees here. That just means this angle also has to be 45 degrees. I'm going to put curve marks to make sure I know they're the same. So I'm going to start my chart, 45, 45, 90. Okay, your constants are 1, 1, radical 2. Those are going to be given to you on the test. You're welcome. Okay, what information are you given? You're given that across from 90 degrees is 12. So under 90, you put 12. Okay, that just means, look what's left. We have both blanks under 45, so that just means those sides are going to be the same. Remember, if you have two angles that are the same, the sides opposite them are also going to be the same. So the side opposite from this 45 has to be the side opposite from this 45. So we're just looking for one value, and it's going to be the same for both. Okay, here's your proportion. Here we go. So we have 1 over x equals radical 2 over 12. This one we're going to have to do a little bit of work for. Okay, so I have 1 times 1 times 12 is 12 equals x times radical 2 is just x radical 2. Okay, you're solving for x. There's a radical 2 with x that are being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. So divide both sides by radical 2. Okay, the radical 2's are going to cancel here. So now I'm really left with 12 divided by radical 2. Remember, you can't have a radical in the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to write this under the answer choices so I have more room to work. So you can't have a radical in the bottom. So to get rid of a radical, remember, you're multiplying top and bottom by whatever is for your denominator. So the denominator is radical 2, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by radical 2. Okay, when you simplify, you multiply straight across. So 12 times radical 2 is just 12 radical 2 divided by. Now here is where we're multiplying the same radical. So we have radical 2 times radical 2. That is just 2. Okay, this could be our answer, but we're not done simplifying. If you look right here, you can simplify those two numbers outside the house. That's 12 divided by 2. Okay, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then keep your radical 2. That's your answer. So for both of these, you have 6 radical 2. All right, we're done with 45, 45, 90 for now. We're going to move on to 30, 60, 90. 30, 60, 90, you're going to have a chart, but you just have different constants. I know it's 30, 60, 90 because I have 90 degrees here, and I have 60 degrees. My last blank is 30, so I'm going to put 30 right there. Okay, set up your chart. You have 30, 60, 90. 1, radical 3, 2. Oh man, my lines are getting bad. It's not good for my YouTube followers. Okay, so you have to look for two sides, but we first got to figure out what's given to us. So I know 14 is given because I can see the value. So 14 is this length. That's across from which angle? It's across from 90 degrees. Okay, it's opposite of 90. So under 90, we're going to put 14. Okay, then the first thing we're looking for is DE. So DE is right here. Let's just go ahead and label that X. Okay, I feel like one letter is easier than two. So X is across from which degree? Across means opposite, not touching. That's opposite of 60 degrees. So under 60, I'm going to put an X. Okay, we're going to solve this proportion first before we do anything else. Okay, so really you don't even need 30 right now to get X. So we're going to cross multiply. Set up a proportion. So we have radical 3 over X equals, look at the second part of our proportion, 2 over 14. Cross multiply. 2 times x is 2x equals 14 times radical 3 is just 14 radical 3. Okay, you're solving for x, so divide by 2 on both sides. Okay, this is going to come out nice. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Keep your radical 3. So that means x is really 7 radical 3, or what we said was x, it's really DE. Okay, now the last part I need is EA. So EA is right here. So let's just give that another letter. Give it Y. Okay? Doesn't really matter. So that's across from 30 degrees. So under 30 here, you put y. Okay, now when you're solving this proportion, you really don't even need the 60 degrees. You just need 1 over y, and you need 2 over 14. So 1 over y equals 2 over 14. Cross multiply. 2 times y is 2y, equals 1 times 14 is 14. Divide by 2 on both sides, and you're going to get y equals 7. Okay, you're done with number 14. Okay, number 15, again, you have a 30, 60. That means this right here has to be 90. So I'm going to set up my chart 30, 60, 90. Okay, your constants are 1, radical 3, 2. So these charts should be on your paper. Okay, across from what piece of information is given? Across from 30 degrees, what do we have? We have 3. So under 30, I'm going to put a 3. Okay, let's just go in order. So find across from 60 first. So 60 is right here. Go across from that. That's ED. So I'm going to label that first. I'm going to label that X. So that was ED. So under 60, you put X. Solve this proportion first. So let's do 1 over 3 equals radical 3 over X. This is going to come out nice for us. So cross multiply. 1 times X is X, equals going the other way. Set them equal to each other. 3 times radical 3. 3 is outside the house. The radical 3 is inside the house, so just keep them separate. 3 radical 3. So X, or what we said was ED, is just 3 radical 3. Okay, now we got to get the last one. The last thing we're looking for is FE, which is right here. This is across from 90 degrees, so just give that another name. It really doesn't matter. Give it, let's do Y. So that means across from 90, I'm going to put a Y. So really, I don't need 60 anymore for my proportion. I just need 1 over 3 and 2 over Y. So I'm going to have 1 over 3 equals 2 over Y. Okay, cross multiply. When you have proportions, cross multiply. We've been doing this forever. 1 times Y is Y equals 2 times 3 is, that's an equal sign, not a Z. Yikes, I just made it worse. 2 times 3 is 6, so FE is 6. Number 16, again, 30, 60, 90, same process. Set up your chart. We have 30, 60, and 90. 1, radical 3, 2. Okay, you're always going to be given one piece of information. You're going to have to be given some kind of side length. So we're given the side length of 6 radical 3. That's across from 60 degrees. So under 60 degrees, you put 6 radical 3. Okay, let's go in order. Let's find opposite of 30. So we're going to find opposite of 30. So 30 degrees is right here. It's that blank. Sorry, I didn't write it in. Write that in. Okay, so opposite of 30 is HI, high. So opposite of 30 is HI. Let's just put X there. I'm going to change that X here so I know where I write. So under 30, you put X. There's your proportion. It's staring at you in the face. 1 over X equals radical 3 over 6 radical 3. Cross multiply. 1 times 6 radical 3 is just 6 radical 3 equals X times radical 3 is just X radical 3. Okay, this is going to work out nice for us. Since you have this X times radical 3, those are being multiplied, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So you're going to divide by radical 3 on both sides. Okay, look what happens. They're going to cancel on the right. They're also going to cancel on the left. So you're left with just X equals 6. Okay, and then for the last part, you're looking for, we need this 90 blank. So we're looking for this side that's across from 90 so we can fill this part in. So find 90, go right across from it. Okay, that's GI. Okay, so we're going to label this, just label it Y. So under 90, you put Y. Okay, again, you have your proportions staring at you in the face. So I have radical 3 over 6 radical 3 equals 2 over Y. Cross multiply. Radical 3 times Y is radical 3y, or 3 radical y. Now, when you multiply going the other way, the 6 and the 2 are the only numbers that are outside the house, so keep them outside the house. So 6 times 2 is 12. Keep your radical 3. Again, you're solving for y, so the y and the radical 3 are being multiplied, so you need to divide both sides by radical 3. Look what happens. It's going to cancel for us. Hallelujah. So you get y equals 12. That's, oh man, that's really bad. Yeah, that's terrible. Oh gosh, what am I doing? That's 12. We'll go on to the next one. Okay, 17, it's really like two different triangles in one. So the first one we have is a 30, 60, 90. Then we go to 45, 45, 90. So since we're given information right here, this is part of the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So we're going to have to start there. So we're going to have 30, 60, 90. 1 radical 3, 2. Okay, and you're looking for all these different sides. So what are you given? You're given across from 60 is 9 radical 3. So under 60, we're just going to put 9 radical 3. Okay, and then it's asking for SW. SW is right here. That's going to, if this is 60 and that's 90, this little angle right here has to be 30. So SW is across from 30, so I'm going to name that X. Let's rename that X. So under 30, I'm going to have X. So when I cross multiply here, I get 1 over X equals radical 3 over 9 radical 3. Okay, cross multiply. X times radical 3 is just X radical 3 equals going the other way. 1 times 9 radical 3 is 9 radical 3. Okay, divide both sides by radical 3. This one's going to work out nice for us. Okay, the radical 3's are going to cancel, and you're going to be left with X equals 9. So X equals 9. Okay, then it's also asking me for SA. So SA is, really that's the hypotenuse of both. So that's across from 90 degrees. So I'm going to put, let's name this Y. So I'm going to put Y under 90 degrees. So I have another proportion right here. So I'm going to have radical 3 over 9 radical 3 equals 2 over y. Okay, cross multiply. Y times radical 3 is y radical 3 equals, when you multiply going the other way, that's 9 radical 3 times 2. The 9 and the 2 are the only numbers that are outside the house, so you multiply those. 9 times 2 is 18, and you keep your radical 3. Okay, the y and the radical 3 are being multiplied, so to get rid of it, you need to divide both sides by radical 3. Okay, again, this is nice. The radical 3's are going to cancel, so we're going to be left with y equals 18. And this is y. Okay, so now we know that this side, if I erase that y, this is really 18. So now it's asking for ST, which is right here, and TA, which is right here. If this is a 45, 90 blank triangle, this last blank right here has to be 45. So now this triangle is 45 degrees. Well, it's already given me what's across from 90, so that means I'm asking for ST here and TA here. Those are both opposite of 45 degrees. So since they're both opposite of 45 degrees, they're going to be the same. So I only have to do one more proportion. So we're going to set up our 45, 45, 90. So I have 45, 45, 90. 1 radical, whoa, my bad. 1 radical 2. Jeez, getting bad at this, okay. Okay, so I know across from my 90 degrees is 18. So across from 90 degrees, put 18. Then you're just looking for one of the x's. Okay, I'm going to erase some of this work so I have room to work. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply. Here's your proportion. So I have 1 over x equals radical 2 over 18. Cross multiply. 1 times 18 is 18 equals x times radical 2. is x radical 2. Okay, divide both sides by radical 2. The radicals are going to cancel here. This potentially could be your answer, but you can't have a radical in the denominator. So I'm going to rewrite that 18 radical 2. To get rid of a radical, you multiply top and bottom by radical 2. You're going to have to do this tomorrow on your test. Okay, when you simplify that, 18's out of the house, keep it outside the house. Radical 2 is inside the house, keep it inside the house. Now on the bottom, any radical times itself. Radical 2 times radical 2 is just 2. Okay, again right here, simplify. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Keep your radical 2. So the last two sides are 9 radical 2. Okay, and then this one should have been 18. Okay, so that's probably the hardest problem on here. So if you can do that, then you'll be good for the test. Okay, for 18 through 23, it just says you were going to use trigonometric ratios. That's sine, cosine, and tangent. It says use the diagram to express each ratio as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so remember our little saying we have SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so that's just saying that we have sine of the number of degrees is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, then you have cosine of the number of degrees is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then on the last one, we'll do it in green, you have tangent of the number of degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Okay. So the first one, circle the angle you're working with. So it says find sine of L. On the first, actually the first three, it's all of L. So we're going to circle L first. Okay, so I'm going to circle L. So I'm working with this angle. So if it's asking for sine, sine is, if you look over here, it's opposite of L over the hypotenuse. Before I go on, after you circle your angle, remember always circle or label your hypotenuse. So your hypotenuse never changes. It's always across from 90 degrees. So across from 90 is 15. So I'm going to label that H. That's your hypotenuse, only your hypotenuse. It's nothing else. Okay, now here we go, 18. It's opposite over hypotenuse. So from L, the opposite side is 12. Your hypotenuse is 15. So sine of L is 12 over 15. Okay, cosine. Cosine means adjacent. Adjacent means next to or touching. So the one adjacent to L is 9. Okay, it can't be 15 because, yes, 15 is touching or forming angle L, but it's a hypotenuse. It's only that hypotenuse. So adjacent or next to touching L is going to be 9. And then over the hypotenuse is 15. That's not changing. Okay, tangent of L. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So from L, what is opposite? 12 is opposite. From L, what is adjacent? What side's adjacent? 9's adjacent. Okay, then we're going to work with a different angle. Okay, so I'm going to now circle angle N. Okay, so now I'm circling angle N. So the first one I want is sine of N. So now I'm working with a new angle. Remember, my hypotenuse is never changing. So now from this, I want opposite over hypotenuse. So now from N, opposite is 9. Your hypotenuse never changes. Your hypotenuse is 15. So this is now 9 over 15. Okay, on 22, cosine of N. Cosine is adjacent. So which side is touching N? It's 12. It's not 15 because 15 is a hypotenuse. So adjacent is 12. Your hypotenuse is 15. And the last one, tangent of N. So tangent is opposite of N, which is 9, over adjacent, which is 12. So that's how you express your trig ratios as fractions. Okay, on these next couple, you're first going to have to find some angles and then some sides. So we're going to be completing the triangle. Or we're solving the right triangle. So when that says solve the right triangle, that means you're finding all sides and all angles. Okay, so on the first one, you're given two angles. You're given 90 and 63. So to find the last angle, a triangle is 180 degrees. So you're just going to do 180 minus 90 minus 63 to find how many degrees angle A is, and that's going to be 27. Okay, now I'm given 63, so I'm going to use that, so I'm going to circle 63. I'm asked to find AB, so I'm going to label AB first. I'm just going to name it X. Okay? Before I start, I'm going to label my hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Okay, my H is being used, so that means if I have SOHCAHTOA, my H is being used, so I know it either has to be so or ka. Alright, so now you're looking what else is given. Well, 12 is given. Is 12 opposite of 63 or adjacent? It's adjacent, so I know I'm using cosine. So when I set this up, it's cosine of the degrees that you circled. So it's cosine of the degrees that I circled, which is 63, equals the adjacent side, which is 12, over your hypotenuse, which is x. Put that over 1. Okay, cross multiply. 1 times 12 is 12, equals x times cosine 63 is just x cosine 63. Okay, you're solving for x. They're being multiplied. We just cross multiplied. They're being multiplied. So divide both sides by cosine of 63. Okay, before you type this in your calculator, you better make sure your calculator is in degrees. Remember, to do that, you're going to press mode. It's right next to the blue button. Make sure degrees is highlighted, and then you're good to go. Okay, now also, when you type this in your calculator, this is a division sign, y'all, so you have to use it. So we have 12 divided by cosine of 63. So if you do 12 divided by cosine of 63, you should get 26.43. So the AB is going to be 26.43. Okay, now we're trying to find AC. So AC is this right here. Let's just label that Y. Alright, so I'm working with 63 degrees still. Okay, but now I'm not using the hypotenuse. Okay, your hypotenuse, we're not using this anymore. So this information, that doesn't even matter. We're not using it. So if H is not used, which trig function are we using? We're using TOA. So we're going to use tangent. So we have tangent of the number of degrees of 63 degrees. We circled that. That is the opposite side over the adjacent side, which is 12. Put tangent 63 over 1. Cross multiply. This one's going to be nice for us. 1 times y is y, equals 12 times tangent 63. You want the 12 to go first, then tangent 63. If you type that into your calculator, just straightforward, 12 tangent 63, you're going to get 23.55. Okay, on the next one, same type of process. So if we are, we're given two angles, we're given 61 and 90. To find this last one, you're just going to take both of those, add it up, subtract from 180. So we're going to do 180 minus 61 minus 90, and you should get 29. So this angle right here is 29, and that's angle D. Okay, I don't really know why I wrote it there. Okay. Okay, so first, circle the degrees you're working with. It's 61. You cannot use 30, 60, 90. That is 61 degrees. After you circle your degrees, label your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is 100, so that's going to be used in this first problem. So the first one we're going to look for is EF. Well, EF is right here, so let's label that X. Okay. Alright, so I know my hypotenuse is being used, so I know it's either so or ka. Now, is X adjacent or opposite of 61? Well, since this segment is part of that angle, it's touching it, it's going to be adjacent. So we're going to use cosine of the number of degrees. How many degrees did we circle? 61. Equals. So cosine is adjacent, which is x, divided by 100. Put cosine 61 over 1. Cross multiply. 1 times x is x, equals, cross multiply again. Cosine 61 times 100, put the 100 first, then cosine 61. So since you don't have to divide, you're just going to type that in. So 100 cosine 61. Okay, when you type that in, you should get 48.48. On the next one, we are going to be finding DF. So DF is right here. Label that Y. Okay, so now we don't even really need that X anymore. We're not using that. So erase it if it's messing you up. So now I still have my hypotenuse being used, so I'm here. 61 is my degree. I'm looking for Y. Is this opposite or adjacent to 61? It's opposite, so I'm using cosine. So I have cosine of the, I'm using sine. So I have sine of the degrees that I'm using. So how many degrees did I circle? 61. That equals the opposite side, which is Y, over the adjacent side, which is, or the hypotenuse, which is 100. Alright, put sine 61 divided by 1, cross multiply. This one's nice too. 1 times Y is Y, equals 100 sine 61 is 100 sine 61. Type that into your calculator, 100 sine 61, and you should get 87.46. Okay, we have two more on this page. If you're looking for angles, we're really only given 90 degrees. I don't know what these two angles are. That's okay. What is the first angle I'm looking for? The first angle I'm looking for is angle R. So I'm going to circle angle R. I'm going to put an X there for the degrees. Okay, I'm looking for that. If I'm looking for angle R, I'm still using SOHCAHTOA, so I'm going to write it down here. You can look up at the top of your paper, but since I scrolled, I can't see it. We're still using that. So first label your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is across from the 90 degrees. So when I'm trying to find angle R, I'm not using my hypotenuse, so that means I have to be using tangent because H is not used. So I have tangent of the number of degrees. So I have tangent of how many degrees? I forgot to circle, sorry. How many degrees? X degrees. So it's tangent of X equals, that's a degree symbol, it's a really big one. So tangent is opposite of X is 7, divided by adjacent is 11. Okay, if you're looking for the number of degrees, your degrees are not given. This is when you work backwards. So if you're working backwards from this and you're trying to find X, you need to do the inverse. So this is tangent of -1, the inverse. Y'all, I'm struggling for real. And then 7 divided by 11. So you're typing that into your calculator. Remember, this is second tan on your calculator. So press the blue button and then tangent. You should see second to the negative, or tangent to the -1, and then type your fraction, 7 divided by 11. Okay, when you press enter, you should get 32.47. Okay, so if that's 32.47 and this is 90, to find the last one, you can do inverse again, or if you know that a triangle is 180 degrees, just do 180 minus what we just found, 32.47, and minus 90 degrees. Okay, you're going to be left with 57.53. Okay, so you know a triangle has 180 degrees, then just take both of these measures, which you have 32.47 and 90, add them up, and then subtract by 180. Okay, the last thing I'm looking for on this one is RS. RS is the hypotenuse, so let's label this Y since I already used Z. So you're looking for your hypotenuse. Now, if you look at this, and we'll round on this one, look at what was originally given. You're originally given 11, and you're originally given 7. You're given 2 sides of your triangle. To find the third side, you do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to have 11 squared plus 7 squared equals my hypotenuse squared, and I said that was y squared. You can name it x, it doesn't matter. Okay, so if you type that into your calculator, if you do 11 squared plus 7 squared, you're going to get 170. So you have 170 equals y squared. To solve for y, you're going to take the square root on both sides. Okay, when you take the square root on both sides, you're going to get 13.04 when you round. Okay, I'm rounding, remember, because in the directions, if you read, because I know everyone reads directions, it says to round side lengths and angle lengths to the nearest 100. Okay, 27 is the same type of problem. We're going to find one angle first, and then we're going to subtract our total from 180 to find the last one. So how about we find, let's find angle x, I guess, since it's the first one. So angle x is really x degrees. Alright, I'm using angle x. I'm going to label my hypotenuse, which is across from 90 degrees, which is 17. Okay, so I know I have h. H is being used. So it's either so or it's either ka. Now you need to look at the angle you're using and the side. Is this side touching that angle, or is it opposite? Is it not touching? It's touching, so that means it's adjacent, so we're using cosine. So we're going to do cosine of the number of degrees. It's x degrees. You circled x degrees, you don't know the degrees, it's x degrees. Okay, what does that equal? Adjacent is, or cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So from your degrees, what side is adjacent? 15. Over your hypotenuse, which is 17. Okay, this one again, you're not given your angle. You're not given your degrees. You want to find that. So you're going to have to work backwards. So we're going to have to do the inverse of this. So cosine inverse of what? What is your fraction? 15 divided by 17. When you're looking for the actual degree, that's when you do inverse. So we're going to do second cosine in your calculator, 15 divided by 17. Okay, when you press enter, you're going to get 28.07. So that's this angle right here, 28.07. If you're given 28.07 and you're given 90, add these two up and subtract from 180 to find y. So do 180 minus 28.07 minus 90. Okay, what are you left with? You're left with 61.93. Okay, if you're looking for YZ is right here. Okay, you're given, look at what you're originally given. You're originally given this side is 15. You don't know this side, but the hypotenuse is 17. So if you're given two sides and you're trying to find a third side, it's Pythagorean theorem. So if we set that up, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's name this, let's just name it b. So we have a squared, which is 15, so 15 squared, plus, now you can't just do 17 squared. You have to do the legs first. The hypotenuse is always by itself. So b is the other side leg, so 15 squared plus b squared equals your hypotenuse is by itself, 17 squared. So this one we're going to have to do a little work, and we're going to have to make sure we solve for x. So 15 squared is 225, so we have 225 plus b squared equals 17 squared is 289. So if you're solving for b, we're going to subtract 255 on both, or 225, sorry, on both sides. So we're going to get b squared equals, and if you do 289 minus 225, you're going to get 64. If you take the square root of 64 on both sides, you're going to get 8. So that one was a Pythagorean triple. It wasn't one of the common ones, but since all the sides came out even, and it's a right triangle, that is a Pythagorean triple. Okay, here are some more inverse problems. You're trying to find the angle, so we're going to do inverse trig. So I'm looking for angle D, so I'm going to circle that. Label your hypotenuse. Okay, so I have SOHCAHTOA again. So if you're looking for angle D, your hypotenuse really is not used at all. So we're looking for tangent. So we're going to do tangent of the number of degrees. Well, I'm looking for the number of degrees. I don't know what it is. So tangent is really opposite over adjacent. So from angle D, opposite is 28 over adjacent, which is 21. So since you're looking for the degrees, you have to work backwards. So you need to do tangent inverse in your calculator. 28 divided by 21. So if you do second tangent, 28 divided by 21, and press enter, you're going to get 53.13. Okay, on 29, you're looking for K. So we're going to circle K. Also label your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is across from the right angle. So now our hypotenuse is being used. So I know it's either SO or KA. Now you got to determine, the last thing we're given is 16. Is 16 opposite of K or is it adjacent? It's opposite, it's not touching, so I know I'm using sine. So I have sine of the number of degrees. Well, I don't know what it is. I'm looking for it. So sine of x degrees, that has to equal the opposite. So what are you looking for? You're looking for K. So what's opposite of K? 16 over what's your hypotenuse? Your hypotenuse is 34. Again, you're looking for the degrees. You're going to have to work backwards. So we're going to have to do the inverse of sine 16 divided by 34. Type that in your calculator. Second sine 16 divided by 34. And you're going to get 28.07. Okay, and the last one, we're looking for angle V. So I'm going to circle that. That's going to be our variable x. Okay, label your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Okay, so since our hypotenuse is being used, again, I'm either using SO or KA. So if you're looking for angle V or X is what we're calling it, we're given 12. Is 12 touching this angle or is it opposite? It's touching. So since it's touching, it's adjacent. I know I'm using cosine. So I'm going to do cosine of how many degrees? X degrees. I don't know. That's what I'm looking for. Equals adjacent. So what side is adjacent to that angle? It's 12. Adjacent means touching. Over 37. Okay, again, you don't have your degrees. You're looking for your degrees. You have to work backwards. So you're going to do the inverse of cosine, 12 divided by 37. So type that in your calculator. Second cosine, 12 divided by 37. When you press enter, you're going to get 71.0, and when we're rounding, we're going to round up, so 0.8. Okay, we're going to have some word problems to finish out this page. So it says, one morning as John was leaving for school, he discovered his dog was out. So he chased his dog south on 52nd Street for 30 feet. So we're going to just have some starting point. Okay, I'm just going to pick a point, 0, 0. If I go south, okay, I'm going down 30 feet. Okay, then west, so never eat sour watermelon. So then I'm going to go left 50 feet. Okay, I'm going to move this 30 to the outside. It says where he caught the dog. How far from home, which was where we started, to how far from home did the dog end up? Around to the nearest 10th. Well, you're connecting this right here. Okay, it's a right angle. You're given two sides. You're looking for the last side. It's Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so you have Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals your hypotenuse squared. Your hypotenuse is always by itself. So if you type 30 squared plus 50 squared in your calculator and press enter, you're going to get 3,400. That equals x squared. That's not your answer. You have to take the square root of that value. So if you take the square root of that value, okay, remember it also says do not round to the nearest 10th. That means one decimal place. Your answer is going to be 58.3. On 32, it says, if you have a 15-foot ladder, how far away from the base of a wall would you have to put it to reach a window 12 feet up? Okay, so we're going to have some wall right here. Okay, then we're going to have some ladder. Now, if you have a ladder, you tilt the ladder on the wall. So this is 15. Because it's a 15-foot ladder. So the diagonal is going to be 15. There's my ladder in blue. It says, how far away from the base of the wall, which the base of the wall is right here, would you have to put the ladder to reach a window 12 feet up? So let's say my window is somewhere right here, and this distance is going to be 12. So it wants the distance from the wall to the edge of the ladder, which is right here. Oh, I like this color. Okay, you have a 90-degree angle. Pythagorean theorem. You're given two sides. You're looking for the last side. So this one is a squared plus b squared equals your hypotenuse squared. So we have 12 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared. So 12 squared is 144 plus x squared, I'm just simplifying, 15 squared is 225. Okay, if you're solving for x, you're going to subtract 144 on both sides. So we're going to be left with x squared equals 225 minus 144 is 81. You're not done. You're solving for x. Right now you have x squared, so you're going to have to take the square root on both sides. Once you take the square root of x squared, you're going to get x, and then take the square root of 81, you get 9. That is your answer. Okay, on number 33, it says a tree 14 feet tall. So here's our tree, 14 feet tall. Cast a shadow, which forms an angle of 43 degrees with the ground. How long is the shadow to the nearest 100? So we have our shadow in blue. Okay, we're going to connect this. It's asking how long the shadow is, so that's right here. But remember, it also says that it forms an angle of 43 with the ground. Okay, if this is the height of the tree, the ground is right here. I know this is 90 degrees, so the angle that it's going to be forming with the ground is right here. So this right here is 43. So I'm going to write that in right here, 43. Okay, so you just have a trig problem. So you just set a problem up for trig. So first thing you need to do is to circle your degrees you're working with. Okay, then label your hypotenuse. Okay, so we have SOHCAHTOA. Okay, your hypotenuse is not being used at all. So since it's not being used, it can't be SO or it can't be CA. So if it's not those two, it has to be TOA. So it's going to be tangent. So we have tangent of how many degrees did we use? We used, what did we circle? 43. Equals. TOA is opposite, which is 14, over adjacent, which is x. Put that over 1. Okay, cross multiply and divide. 1 times 14 is 14 equals tangent 43 times x is just x, tangent of 43. Okay, you have to solve for x. X and tangent of 43 are being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. So you have to divide by tangent of 43. You have to divide by the whole thing. Okay, so we have cancel out tangent 43 on the right. So you're typing this whole thing into your calculator. Okay, remember, this is a division sign. You have to put a division sign. Type it as you see it. 14 divided by tangent of 43. Okay, when you type that in, you should get 15.01. Okay, so that is how long the shadow is. Okay, and the last one, 34 on this page, it says in a right triangle. Okay, keyword, right triangle. Draw a triangle. Make a right angle out of it. It says the hypotenuse is 22 feet. Label the hypotenuse. 22, the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. It says one of the angles equals 30. Okay, label that. It says what is the length of the shortest side? So if you're looking for the shortest side, That's across from the shortest angle. Well, if you have 30 and you have 90, okay, this is a 30, 60, 90. So this right here is 60 degrees. So set up your chart. 30, 60, 90. 1, radical 3, 2. Okay, you know across from 90 degrees is 22. So across from 90, you're going to put 22. It's looking for the shortest side. So now you got to determine what is the smallest angle. Is 30 smaller or 60 smaller? I hope you tell me that 30 is smaller. So across from 30 is going to be the shortest side. So under 30 is what you're looking for. So that's going to be your variable x. Here's your proportion. 1 over x equals 2 over 22. Okay, cross multiply. 1 times 22 is 22. 2 times x is 2x. Divide by 2 on both sides, and you're going to get x is 11. And that's saying your shortest side is 11. Okay, if you're looking for, we only have a couple more. If you're looking for the geometric mean between the following values, so that just means you're going to take the square root of both values after it's being multiplied. So what you're going to do, first you got to multiply the values and then just take the square root. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply 6 and 30. So if you do 6 times 30, oh my gosh, you're going to get 180. So 6 times 30 is 180. Well, the geometric mean is you taking the square root. 180 does not come out even, so we're going to have to break this down. So I'm going to break it down into primes. So I have 18 and 10. Okay, those aren't prime, so I'm going to break it down again. 18 is going to go to 9 and 2. 2 is prime, so I'm going to underline it. 9 is not prime. This is going to break down to 3 and 3. So 3 is prime and 3 is prime, and I'm going to break this 10 down, don't forget about the 10, into 2 and 5. So the 2 is prime and the 5 is prime. So now I have all my primes. Circle numbers that get to come out of the house. 3 comes out because it has a date. But look, 2 also comes out because it has a date. So if you bring more than one number out on the house, they're going to be multiplied. Who does not have a date? 5 does not have a date. He has to stay in. 3 times 2 is 6, radical 5. On number 30, take your two numbers, multiply them first. 5 times 20 is 100. So then once you multiply the two numbers, take the square root. Well, luckily this one comes out even. The square root of 100 is 10. Same thing on 37. Take your two numbers, multiply them. 7 times 18 is 126. So take 126. You're not done. Take the square root. Okay, we're going to have to break this down into primes. If you break it down, it doesn't matter what numbers you pick. I did 126 divided by 6. It came out even, so it's going to be 6 and 21. You can use different numbers. You'll get the same thing. Those aren't prime. Break them down more. 6 goes to 3 and 2. Those are prime. I'm going to underline them. 21 goes to 3 and 7. Those are prime. I'm going to underline them. So now you have all your primes. Look at the numbers that are underlined. What has a date? What can come out of the house? The 3 has a date. It gets to come out. The 2 and the 7 don't have a date. They both have to stay in. If two numbers stay in, that means you multiply them. 3 is out. 2 and 7 stay in. 2 times 7 is 14. So your answer is 3 radical 14. Okay, last one for this quick geometric mean. You have 40 and 10. Multiply those two numbers first. 40 times 10 is 400. You're not done. Take the square root. Luckily, this one comes out even. You get 20. Okay, on this one, you have similar right triangles, so you're going to have to set up that chart. So we have, let's see how nice I can do this. So you have the small triangle, the medium triangle, and the large triangle. You have the short leg, the long leg, and the hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm first going to look at, the first thing I kind of see, there's two triangles. You have the big triangle, or three triangles, sorry. The big triangle, the medium triangle, and the small triangle. Okay, so I'm first looking at the small triangle right here. I know that the smallest side is 16. So under the small triangle on the short leg, I'm going to put 16. And then I know for the long leg, it's going to be x. So under small long leg, I'm going to put x. And then I'm looking at this medium triangle right here. Okay, so this is my right angle, so that's how my hypotenuse. My short side, you should be able to tell that's short. My short side is x. So for my medium triangle, my short leg, I'm going to put x. And then for my long leg, I'm going to put 84. Okay, remember, when you're solving for x, you only need enough to make two fractions to get a proportion. So I have what I need. So you should see your proportion right here. It's 16 over x equals x over 84. Cross multiply. X times x is x squared equals 16 times 84 is 1344. Okay, you're not done. You're going to want to take the square root of 1344. Okay, so we can round this. If you take the square root of 1344, you're going to get 36. Excuse me, 36 point. Let's round it to the nearest tenth, or sorry, 100, 36.66. So that's your answer for 39. 40, same type of thing. Set up your chart on your test tomorrow. You're going to have your chart already given for you, so you're not going to have to draw that in. So you have the small triangle, the medium triangle, the large triangle, and you have the short leg, the long leg, and the hypotenuse. Okay, so we have a couple different triangles. You have your big triangle, your medium triangle, and then your small triangle. So if I'm looking at the small triangle, I'm going to have my short leg, which is x. And then I'm also going to have my long leg, which is 12. That's on my small triangle. Okay, now let's move to the medium triangle. Okay, well, if this is 90 degrees, that's going to be the hypotenuse. So I know 12 and 16 have to be the short leg and the long leg. Okay, well, 12 is smaller than 16, so 12 has to be the short leg. That means 16 has to be the long leg. Okay, here we're going to cross multiply. 16 times x is 16x equals 12 times 12 is 144. Okay, so you're still solving for x. Divide by 16 on both sides, and you're going to get x equals 144 divided by 16 is going to be 9. Okay, 41. Same type of thing. Draw your chart. So you have small triangle, medium triangle, large triangle. You have the short leg, the long leg, and the hypotenuse. You're just filling everything in until you have enough to make a proportion, or that just means two equal fractions. Okay, so I have three triangles. I have the big triangle, the large one. Then I have the medium one, and then I have the baby one, the little small one. Okay, so if you're looking at the small triangle, x is going to be your short side, and then 48 is going to be your long leg. So fill in what you know. Okay, then if you're looking, we have the medium triangle. So you have 48 and 64. Those are your legs. 48 is small, so that's your short leg. That's smaller than 64. And then your medium leg is, your long leg is going to be 64. So fill in the information that you need. Okay, I have enough to make a fraction, a proportion, so that's all I need. So cross multiply. 64 times x is just 64x equals, multiply, going the other way. 48 times 48 is going to be 2304. Okay, solve for x, divide by 64 on both sides. So you're going to get x, that's an x. You're going to get x equals 2304 divided by 64. You're going to get 36. Okay, and the last one. Okay, get your chart. So you have the small triangle, the medium triangle, the large triangle, short leg, long leg, the hypotenuse. Okay, so we really have 3 triangles. You have the large triangle, then you have 2 triangles inside. You have the medium triangle, and you have the small triangle. Okay, let's do the larger triangle first. So the hypotenuse is right here. So across from the hypotenuse is the whole length. So if this is 10 and this is 8, the whole length is going to be 18. So on your large triangle, your hypotenuse is going to be 18. And then if you look right here, your small side is going to be x. Okay, then if you look at your small triangle, you know your hypotenuse is across from this 90-degree angle, so your hypotenuse is x. So on your small triangle, your hypotenuse is x. And then if you look at your short leg, it's going to be 10. So you should have your proportion, you have 10 over x and x over 18. So I have 10 over x equals x over 18. Cross multiply. So you have x times x is x squared equals 10 times 18 is 180. Take the square root of that, and when you take the square root of 180, you're going to get 13.42. Okay, that's the end of the review. Make sure you ask me any questions if you have any. And make sure you look over all of your notes, and then you should be good to go for your test. Good luck.